All right, welcome aboard, everyone. This is Salute, and we're in the Mo Talk mode. We are Mo Talk Memphis. Excuse me. We're going to be talking today about our accomplishments as African American people or Black people. What have we actually done? Where are we as it pertains to American society, our American life? Where are we? Have we actually accomplished everything that we want? Or are we in need of a continued battle for our rights or our share of American life? The American dream, as they tell us, we've been told many times. And what is the American dream? And have we actually accomplished that dream? Many of you don't know, because our educational system throughout the United States does not teach African American history. The truthful teaching of African American history. What actually happened to us as a people? Why are we like we are? These questions would be answered in a truthful history class of Black people. But we don't get that. And we haven't gotten that since day one in the educational system. In other words, our history has been whitewashed and has been given to us under a colonization system. And thereby, we have very little or if any knowledge about who we are, where we came from, why we are like we are. Now, it's clearly understood in many academic circles that many of us came from Africa or Australia or any other place where dark-skinned or melanated people lived. But it's becoming more and more known that many of us were already here, already indigenous to the land of North America. So we're debating today whether we were vastly, overwhelmingly brought into the American or the North American land, or are we indigenous to the land? Good question to ask and answer. Okay, but what we have today, in agreement with that, what have we actually accomplished? We just played a little clip about Jim Crow. Kind of give a little insight on what it may have been like during those days. And I'm going to take this moment here and play another clip about Jim Crow.
Today in the Daily Dose, Jim Crow laws in the segregated South. Named after a black minstrel show character, Jim Crow laws were a collection of mostly Southern state and local statutes that legalized racial segregation, which were implemented shortly after the end of the Civil War and lasted until the civil rights protests and federal legislation of the 1960s. The laws were intended to marginalize African Americans by suppressing their right to vote limiting their access to good-paying jobs while excluding access to higher education. Those who attempted to shirk the laws often faced arrest, fines, jail time, violence, and even death. In 1896, the first legal attempt to repeal Jim Crow laws was upheld in the case of Plessy v. Ferguson, in which the U.S. Supreme Court laid out its separate but equal doctrine, affirming racial segregation in public facilities, including the coaches of interstate trains and buses. Facilities for African Americans were routinely inferior and underfunded compared to facilities maintained exclusively for whites. While the laws as a whole institutionalized economic, educational, and social disadvantages for African Americans living in the South, segregation was also adhered to in the U.S. military, while in 1913, Southern Democratic President Woodrow Wilson initiated national segregation policies in federal workplaces. Southern statutes continued to impose poll taxes on Black Americans, attempting to suppress them from voting in local, state, and national elections. In 1954, segregation of state-funded public schools was declared unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court under Chief Justice Earl Warren in the landmark case Brown v. Board of Education. Yet most Southern states dragged their feet for years before integration was finally achieved, against great backlash from white Southerners. In 1964, the Warren Court continued to rule against Jim Crow laws in other cases such as Heart of Atlanta Motel, Inc. v. United States. The last vestiges of Jim Crow laws came to an end when they were overruled by the Civil Rights Act of 1964, followed by the Voting Rights Act of 1965, bringing to an end white America's long and stained history of racial suppression against Black Americans. And there you have it, Jim Crow laws in the segregated South. Today in the Daily Dose.
But nevertheless, we don't have to get into a lot of videos and those types of things, because most of us have lived the life. We know what Jim Crow laws are. Chris Rock said it best. When he mentioned, was asked a question about the Jim Crow laws, he said the book is very thick, meaning the laws covered everything that had to do with segregation and how to keep our ancestors, or keep us, separate from the so-called white community. Okay, and he mentioned in his statement, he mentioned that in his opinion, the laws were not abolished until 1972. And he mentioned that's 10 years after he was born, or before he was born. So the thing about it is, the Jim Crow laws still today affect our lives, whether we accept it or reject it. And I want to make mention to you all while we are online here, is that we have a special guest, and that's Councilwoman Pearl Walker. And we would like to thank you for joining us, Councilwoman, and we hope that your contribution, or our contribution, is mutual. Thank you. But nevertheless, of course, Councilwoman Pearl Walker is a community woman. She is in the game, on the ground, walking side by side with the community throughout her district and outside of her district. She has been one of our most successful elected officials in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'm happy that she has taken the time to join us today. But back to Jim Crow. Now, we're going to talk about the negative things about our lives in the United States of America. Then we're going to talk about the positive things, okay? But personally, I remember as a boy, I remember having to go to the back door to a hamburger restaurant. I remember being told at the front door, you have to go around to the back door. That restaurant was on the corner of McLemore and 3rd Street, on the northwest corner. There was a restaurant there. And I was told at the front door, you have to go around to the back door. I was also told to go to the back door at a restaurant that was called Earl's Hot Biscuit. It was on the corner of Crump Boulevard and 3rd Street. More on Crump Boulevard than 3rd, but right there on the southwest corner. I remember going to Goldsmith department store, and there were signs on the bathroom doors that said colored this here and whites here. I remember in that same department store there was 2 water fountains. One said colored and the other one said white. I remember going to the Malco Theater, downtown Memphis, on Main Street, and we had to, if we could not go in the front door, we would have to go around to the side door to get in the theater and go upstairs in the balcony to watch a movie. The people, the young boys in my neighborhood, my crew as I would call them, we take responsibility for tearing down or breaking down that requirement in the Malco Theater, because we went upstairs one day and decided to throw popcorn, cokes, and all that stuff downstairs on the white folk. Of course, we were put out or ran, well, not put out, we ran out afterward, but the next time we went to that movie, everybody went into the front door. I remember refusing to drink the water out of that colored water fountain in the Malco, the department store. And I didn't go in the bathroom, either one of them. Okay. So I remember again as a boy with my mother riding, we had gone downtown on the bus, and I know we rode the back. I can remember we was on the back of the bus, but coming back, I want to sit in the seat behind the bus driver so I can look out of that big window, you know. And after my mother paid for our trip, she grabbed my hand and told me that we have to go to the back of the bus. I was so upset. I really, really wanted to ride the front of that bus. But nevertheless, I got I think it may have been, I was in my late 30s or 40s when my Islamic community, Muslim community, was taking a trip, and I put my luggage in the bus and decided to sit on the front seat of the bus, right behind the driver. I said to myself, I got a chance now to ride in the front, right behind the driver. And one of the hosts on the bus approached me and told me, this is black folk now, black people, Luke, this seat you cannot sit in, you have to find another seat. So again, I was rejected off the front seat, but I took my baggage and everything, put it in my car, and I rode to the event in my car. So, you know, we all have had, especially people of my age, have had experiences that are ingrained in our conscious, in our minds and hearts and soul, that would never be ejected. It's going to always be there. Okay? Jim Crow and slavery, these experiences make us great. You know, even during slavery and Jim Crow era, both of those very difficult periods in our history in America, yet we became the cultural kings of the world. Everybody in the world wants to be like us. Our innovation in music and many other areas, music and the sciences and inventions and on and on and on, we have made a tremendous contribution to this society, or what we call America. One thing, we do not hold our heads high enough. That's the problem. Many of our backs are still slightly bent, okay? Many of us can't grasp the concept of the ultimate freedom. Not freedom to just go where you wanna and eat where you wanna and this, that, and other, but the freedom of mind. That's the most powerful freedom there is. The freedom of mind. The right and the freedom to think as you want. To go where you want is another thing. Because during slavery, you still could go where you wanted to go. You really only had to get a pass from master. If master gave you a pass, and I use that lightly, give you a pass, then you can go where you want to go. You can go shopping, and many times you can get a pass from master to even set up a little operation in town. You could sell a little your little creations or products, but you had to get a pass. Many of us did very well. We did so well during slavery until we were able to purchase our freedom from master. So actually, someone needs to mute their phone. I can't. Oh, Mark, you need.
Okay.
Thank you. Some of us, again, were very creative and hungered for freedom, so much so until the earnings that we got and the monies that we made on the side and all these types of things, we were able to purchase our freedom again. And some of us were inventors on the plantation. We invented things on the plantation. Many of us never accepted slavery at all. There were numerous revolts, numerous lives given for freedom. Many died on the high seas, and many died in the swamps of the southern states, running away, trying to get away. I visited Jekyll Island once, and Jekyll Island is where the last American slave ship, the Wanderer, docked. And I just wanted to see that place. It was a place, it was a town and a city that was unbelievable to me. It was almost like it was back in the slave days, so to speak, back in the 1800s or something like that, you know. Vast swaths of land of swamp all around that town, Jekyll Island. And I went to Brunswick. I went to Savannah. I followed a trail of where those people were transferred from Jekyll Island. And that trail was Brunswick, Savannah, and another town that I can't remember. And I took that trip there. Unbelievable to imagine what those people on that slave ship or many other slave ships prior to them had to go through, especially those who escaped. and was taken by the swamps, that type of thing. Unbelievable. But our people, our ancestors, never accepted their condition. They were always rebellious and revolting and fighting and dying for freedom. And many of them never knew where they were going to go when they became free. We found out after the Civil War, when our ancestors were wandering in forests, starving to death and being killed and lynched by the thousands. So much for the intro, the monologue. That's me. That's what I do. All right. I'm your host, and I'm el-amin. Again, apologizing for the sound problem in the video. I've been working on it for weeks, you know, and this Zoom is being live cast and live streamed through YouTube. So it's a problem in between YouTube and Zoom. I like the concept, I like the idea, and I'm gonna keep working on it and try to get it up to par. But we're talking about our accomplishments in America, but I want to do a monologue on where we have been, you know, and possibly where we are now and what our future looks like. So you can jump in anytime you like. I appreciate it. You know, you could, you know, we can continue talking about the past of slavery, and we can talk about the right now. Welcome aboard, Dr. Omar Baruti.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you for joining us and everyone else. Okay, Dr. Omar, we have been talking about our experience, our ancestors' experience in America under the banner of chattel slavery and Jim Crow. And we're going to move forward in our conversation to our contributions and accomplishments, really, in as far as our lives in America. And I would like to have your input in that, you know, anywhere.
Well, I don't really have any input. What I'm looking at is that, according to Joe Biden, the white race is dropping in population. Now, that's why Donald Trump wants to pay white women to have babies. He wants them to increase the white population in this country. That's why Donald Trump allowed for the people in South Africa to come to this country, because he wanted to make sure they weren't, you know, he wanted to protect them from the racism and discrimination he thought Africans were putting on the white settlers in South Africa, who had already stolen, you know, 90% of the land and the resources. But they felt like they were being, you know, racialized, black against white. So they said, come over here and I got you. But what I'm looking at is that if the white population is going down, hallelujah. It's only been here 6,000 years, and they need to go down, because racism is in the core of their blood, in the core of their thinking, and there is no religion that they create that doesn't have racism in the core. None. Whether it's Catholicism, Baptist, Methodist, whatever they got, racism is in the core, and we are victimized of the religion they even gave us. We need to go back to our own religion, our own culture, our own folkways, mores, go back to what we had before they got here, or before we brought them here.
Yeah, very interesting. You know, of course, we do know that that Caucasians and Europeans, whites, I used all three because they're all different. But they're using the color white as a method of unifying all the various ethnicities, cultures of the Western world. And it's very difficult to do because it really embarrasses and insults many European whites, Europeans and Caucasians. Okay, they don't like the idea of being told that considered white. Okay, It's really it's downgrading, and it's also downgrading for us to call ourselves black as a people. I mean, we got to find a better way, you know. But the bottom line is, yes, their numbers are failing them, and it's because of an economic system that was created in the early 1900s, early 20th century. They calculated that for them to acquire wealth, they would only have to have 2.1 children. And I say 0.1 because that's their calculation. 2.1 children. And over the years, rearing 2 children, they would be able personally to acquire wealth in America. That was their downfall. And many, many, many of them, and they tried to pass that theory or principle over to us to cause us to reduce the number of children we were having. Because in the turn of the century, or the 20th century, the turn of the 19th century, we were having as many as 10 children. Okay, and our population exploded. So they come along to us with all this birth control and all these things that they put in place to cause us to reduce our birth rate, and we did to a degree, but their birth rate was already reduced to 2 children per family. You know, you remember all those TV programs that came on television in the 60s, 70s, and 80s where a family represented a mother, father, and 2 children? Yes, it's true. Now they are paying the price for that. Now they are saying we need to have more children. And Donald Trump and his administration is saying we need to bring these people in from South Africa.
Yes.
With the mindset of Elon Musk, who have many children. I don't know how many. I think he got 8, 9, 10, 15 children or something. And they're thinking that to plant these people in America, that would assist in their population growth as they deport people of color. They think they'll have a chance in that mathematical scheme to have an increase in birth rate and survive what they know is happening. America is turning black. They want to survive that, and they're doing everything in their power to prevent that from happening, which we have to expect that.
And he's even paying white women to have babies.
Yes. Yeah. They had war. They had war
But they didn't put that out there for black women to have babies.
No. Trump said he's going to take the money away from them for having babies.
Yeah.
For us, to take money away from us.
And get rid of all these different programs that's supposed to be supporting our people who are in poverty.
Yeah. And they are, in the other part of all of this, in their fear of America turning black, and some people say brown, but I say black, they're incarcerating hundreds of thousands of black men and boys.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
And and have given them a set of values that cause them to kill thousands of boys and men.
Yes, yes, yes.
With our own hands. All of that is designed to prevent America from becoming a black land, and they're doing everything in their powers to prevent ever happening again a black president.
Oh yes.
Never. The rallying cry is never again.
Yes, sir.
And they are prepared to do anything to make sure that it never happens again. And that's why Trump is so popular among his people. Half of the United States, in fact, very popular. Because he got the memo. And he's executing the memo. And what we need to do is continue on making these enormous and powerful contributions to our lives, because we have a future, and our future is bright. It's going to be it's a wonderful future coming. But we have to lift our heads, straighten our backs, and become the power that we are, that they know we are. Everybody in America knows the power of the black man and woman. They know that. They're not going. Do you think that after all these years they don't get it? They get it. I promise you, they get it. In every sector of the society, they get it. Wherever we go, whatever we do, we first of all we rock the boat, and then we change the boat. Everywhere, anything we do, we are a marvelous people. Everybody envy us because of our hearts, because of who we are. And then our enemies are always trying to perpetuate our negatives. They've always done that. And they failed, and failed again. They've never been able, our enemies have never been able to successfully tag us as something that we are not. But they've tried. And every generation has proven without a doubt that we are among the best people in the world, and that we have been lied on by our enemies. The world knows that. The world knows it more now. Go ahead, Sheila.
We need to know that. That it don't do no good for everybody else to know that we don't know it.
Exactly. And that's what we see. In the old days, I say it like this, in the old days, we had activists on the ground throughout our community, everywhere in the community. There were activists who were always coming before us, sharing, great knowledge, great wisdom, vision, expressing to us who we are. Some of us got it, and some of us didn't get it. Okay, but we need that again, and that's going to be the most difficult thing for us to get this, because many of our activists have passed away. They're gone, and I knew it's here in Memphis, Tennessee. I knew a lot of them, and believe it or not, I miss them because they were controversial, and they always had something for us to, as we used to say, chew on. Always had something to think about, to discuss, and whenever they came across television news, we were always proud of them, as youngsters, but the older people were not. They were quite rebellious. The older people did not understand. They never understand the youth movement, and so the youth were excited about these grassroots liberators, activists, but the old seniors and older people were not, because they just couldn't understand where we were going, and that's understandable. But yeah, we have a lot to do. We have a lot, to do to inform younger people, because they are not educated like we are. They didn't come up in the presence of people like ourselves. They didn't. They have no idea how to think about themselves. No idea. So it's up to us to get in there and show them and teach them. And we're not really, you don't really have to teach them. You can do more showing than anything. Go ahead, anybody. Well, let me explain something to you about Mo Talk. Mo Talk Memphis. It's a radio talk show. but we're using Zoom as a platform. Now, an innovation, a manipulation, but it's going to work. And more you'll see talk radio on Zoom and other platforms like Zoom. So I say that to tell you, like any talk show, you can jump in. You can say what you want to say. You can tell me, oh, Toulouse, you're just a liar. You lie all the time. You have no idea what you're talking about. That'll be part of our talk show. So go ahead, jump in. Let us know.
You know, Dr. Luke, when you look at slavery, white people too, some poor white people came over here as indentured servants.
Yes, slaves.
To the rich white folks.
Right.
And they had to sign an agreement that they would work so many years and before they could be free to go and be them, be free again. But we were slaves for a lifetime. We didn't get freedom just because we were just over here like the indentured servants. But again, this whole country needs to change, but it's not trying to change. And the way it's robbing people is totally out of order, especially when they're charging high prices for items that should cost little or nothing. But they're making billions of dollars off the backs and the sweat of the people that's over here laboring for just pennies a day. Shouldn't do that. If you're not going to pay a decent wage, then go somewhere else. Then go to the moon. Don't come to Earth.
Yeah.
You're not an Earthling. You're a criminal.
But I back in the day, and I'm going back in the day again, and this is about our accomplishments. Okay, we were paid pennies on a dollar to work in fields, chopping cotton, $3 a day, $4 a day, chopping cotton. Okay, picking cotton, $3 a hundred or whatever they call it. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I never did that one. I never did the picking. I didn't. I chopped cotton. I got $3. I got $3. Yeah, all day until we ran off. Me and my friend, we ran off the cotton field and sat under a tree until it was time to go back. Okay, but anyway, but that's what they did to us. They still viewed us in my lifetime as slaves, being paid, picked up, and taken to work like slaves. Yes. Same thing. Federal Express do the same thing today. Federal Express take buses, drive down into the rural Delta, picking up people to bring them to work in their slave plantation out at Federal Express. They do it now. Busload. If you don't, be on 61 highway around 7 or 8 o'clock and you'll see buses on top of buses transferring people from the Delta to Federal Express. Well, that's what happened in my lifetime chopping cotton. Buses would be riding through the street and you stand out on the street and the bus come by, you jump on whoever bus you want to jump on and go to a field in Arkansas or Mississippi and they bring you back. Same thing. Okay, so we have gone through that as far as laborers, working as laborers and being paid pennies on a dollar. But even today, black people make 50% of what white people make on job today.
Correct.
We're not paid equally. It feels like it. It seems like it. We think we are, but in reality, the statistical data shows that African American black people make 50% less than Caucasians in America, Caucasian and Europeans. So we still trapped in some of that, but we've made a lot of progress through labor unions and our consistent and persistent effort to be paid fairly. Income or salaries increased throughout the decades, but nothing comparable to where it should be today. But that's an accomplishment. Because as you mentioned, Dr. Omar, if these people could, they wouldn't pay us anything because they're greedy. They have a appetite for wealth greater than any people that has ever lived on the planet Earth, including the Romans and the Arabs and everybody else. They have this unchecked appetite for wealth and power. Individually. Now, I'm not talking about all Caucasians, I'm talking about individuals like Elon Musk and all those guys. They have an unchecked appetite. They try to get $1 billion. They get the $1 billion, then they try to get $1 trillion. For what? For what? Because what they're doing is siphoning money from the poor. They are stealing money from poor people. Go ahead, doctor.
You know what I was talking about doing with Dr. Redwing. They have Facebook, and they have TikTok. They have all these social media, Google, these social media platforms.
Mm-hmm.
What I was thinking about doing is let's have a black version of all of those platforms. And then let's raise it, because we should be able to raise enough money, because they're raising billions off of Google and TikTok and Facebook, all those social media platforms. Let's raise enough money so that when the money is raised, because our young people, with the mindset of the geniuses, because there are a lot of them there, but they work with other companies, they can create a black Facebook, a black TikTok, a black Google, a black YouTube. They can bring those things to the table, create them, and then raise enough money from all the people that's going to advertise on those social media platforms. Mm-hmm. And then they can make enough money so that 80% of what they make goes to nonprofits throughout the black community. Mm-hmm. And 20% they can hold on to and keep to maintain the businesses and have them a decent salary. But we need to do that so that, because Zuckerberg is a billionaire. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, where is money going? Because it ain't going to the people at the bottom. It ain't going to the nonprofits. You're not making those kind of donations. Yes. We need to come up with a different mindset so we know that we getting billions of dollars. Let's take 80% of those billions and let's give it to our community, because we know they're in trouble and they need help.
Yes, that's not very difficult to do. I actually, back in the I mean 20 years ago or so, I actually used an open source program that basically copies Facebook, okay? Which you have a right to do that. There's no intellectual properties other than to prevent you from doing that on the internet. You could create your own, and I did. I got pretty far with it, but I got locked in one of the levels and couldn't get it over that line, so to speak. But yeah, it's open source, and you could create your Facebook, your whatever, because that's all they have done. Correct. But for some reason, now I know Ice Cube created a social media platform, and somebody else also. So there are several African American social media platform, but they don't get the membership like some of these historical ones do, because the historical ones have been around for a very long time. So it'll be a while before they are able to get to that point.
That's why we need to buy black. All the social media platforms, buy black, constantly buy black. So we're being discriminated against on those platforms.
Sure we are.
Some of the things they're doing on there are really just raunchy. When you see women with their booty, with a string in the booty, that's raunchy. Right. That is not some civilized behavior. Nowhere in Africa, in African America, it's raunchy. We need to go back to something that's more civilized, that can also bring our people back to a different table, so we can take care of our people in a better manner. Because right now, those things are not doing that. Well, even the gangster rapper, it's not healthy. I see, right? Like I told you on the radio show, I got a list with 1,747 gangsters that have been murdered. This music is so poison, they're killing each other. They don't do that with gospel songs and rhythm and blues and jazz and And they don't even do it with conscious rap, but they're doing it now. And because the Jews control the gangster rap industry, we got to go back to a whole different platform and get rid of the nonsense.
Okay, go ahead, Councilwoman.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Am I muted?
No,
I'm not muted.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah,
hear
no, we
me?
hear you.
I hear you quite well.
Okay. So I was wondering if anybody wanted to ask me anything about the council, but as far as the economics go, I think we need a black market economy. We need to do some stuff that's not traceable, that's not reported. Because even if we have a social media platform, we don't own the internet, so it could still be compromised. But I think about I was it was some not specifically dealing with what we were talking about, but and so we were talking about Kojic indirectly, but when I was a young girl, my grandmother, she kept 3 people for the convocation every year, and if there are younger people on the call. So there was a time when the hotels weren't integrated, and it was either a black hotel or there were hotels that we couldn't stay at, and there just weren't enough black hotels to accommodate the saints. That's what we called them, the saints, when they came to town. So people would open their homes, and my grandmother was one of those people, and she kept a married couple and then this man. She kept 3 people for many years, and by the time she got too old to do it, then we had integrated. But it was a really big deal. My mother and 2 of her sisters, they would cook and help my grandmother with the food and take food over there and cakes and stuff. And then early in the morning, my grandmother would feed them a hot breakfast. She would pack them a lunch in a brown paper bag, and whatever time they got back at night, she would feed them again, and she charged them. And so when we integrated, all that money was circulating through our community tax free.
That's right.
That
And Councilwoman, they would pay us to go to the store for them. We'd go to the store as little boys and girls and run down there, pick up things. They give us our quarter, nickels, or dimes, or whatever.
Yeah.
And over there,
and then the transportation.
Yes.
So that transportation for the Saints was organized with no internet, no cell phones.
That's right.
No computers.
That's right.
And so what my grandmother did, now that's bed and breakfast and Airbnb and the transportation. They calling that Lyft and Uber. That's like it's something brand new, but those are just
not new.
When we had our own
economy,
black market.
Yeah, it was an economy.
And about going to the store, that was my first hustle.
Look, and we shine shoes
at Wellington and Tree, which was across from the Jewish man's store.
Right.
And I passed 3 or 4 houses, and it would be elderly people sitting on the porch. We all knew each other.
Right.
They were neighbors. And I'd say, Miss So-and-so, you need something from the store? If they said yes, I go up to the porch, they give me some money, and then I bring the stuff back. I give them their change, and they always gave me like 15 cents or a quarter. And I promise, y'all know that was big money.
That was big money. Yeah, that was big money for. Hey, but look, when you talk about the Church of God in Christ, I wrote that in a book that I've written called Proven. But in that book, I have a whole section on the Church of God in Christ and that economy there that we had there, because we would pay, the saints would pay us to park their cars or show them where a parking place would be, right? And we get money for that, and we shine shoes right on the church ground. We had a lot of little shoe boxes, and we shine shoes and be paid for that. Okay, so a lot of money to us, to especially the teens, the boys, the teens, because we had something to do. We looked forward to the Holy Convocation, right? And my mother for decades housed the saints. She had three families that would come, and all of us would sleep in one room downstairs on the floor in the Fowler home. They had all the rooms upstairs, and she cooked for them breakfast and lunch. We went to the store for them. We got our shoe boxes, went up there on the church ground, shine shoes. At night and in the evening, we'd show the saints where to park their cars and protect their cars for them. So we had an economy. But as Councilwoman said, when the segregation was done and over, Bishop Porter was the bishop that stopped that trade, that commerce, that business. He, in turn, started managing where the saints will book their hotel rooms and would make some money for that. But that actually killed the commerce and trade that the community was making from Church of God in Christ and the saints. The saints were valued people. They were highly valued people and highly respected until that happened.
Like I said,
I'm sorry.
I was just quickly. So, like I said, I was a child, but it was a big deal. I knew that it was a big deal. It was a big deal, like Christmas. It was a big deal.
And Thanksgiving and Christmas. Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Sheila or Linda.
For breaking in. There's
no problem.
There's an effort called WeBuyBlack.com, and it was started by a young man out of Atlanta, Georgia, named Sharif Abdul Malik, I think it is. And what WeBuyBlack.com does is it gives an opportunity for people who have invented things. Like there's a company that does this black razor blade and is supposed to help with the issue that African American men have with problem with razor bumps and that kind of thing. But he designed the blade specifically so it would correct that problem. And then there's another family that does the bandages, and it's bandages that are multicolored. But I'm sorry, y'all.
Oh, that's okay.
But at any rate, WeBuyBlack.com is a collection of entrepreneurs nationally and internationally who produce their own products and that we can buy from. In fact, there's a company out of Atlanta also that sells a laundry detergent. It's called True Laundry Detergent. And they have the laundry detergent, the fabric softener. You can get it in like a $12 tub or $17 tub, but they also have the little pods. And it's all African American owned. In fact, everybody in this company is all African American owned business. And it's WeBuyBlack.com.
Yes.
So it is something that we can begin to start supporting. Yes. And there's so many businesses that are a part of it that we can buy so many things from them and not have to go to some of the neighborhood stores even.
Yeah, I'm going to check that out.
I used to buy that detergent from a sister here locally.
What do you mean you used to?
Well, you the one I was getting it from?
No,
I had probably on Elvis Presley.
No, this is on 3rd. If you go, you know where Masjid El Mu'minun is on 3rd?
Mm-hmm.
We have some there that was we sell it there.
Okay.
And then, you might know Tahita.
I was trying to sell it, but I had to get a whole pallet, and at the time I didn't have anywhere to keep it.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe talk to Salim. He might be able to help you to bring the pallet to Memphis. Maybe if you all work together, you can kind of split that pallet that we get in half.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
But yeah, probably since the time you were selling it, they have increased their what's the word I'm looking for?
Volume.
Not the volume, the variety.
Oh, variety. Okay.
You have
well, they both start with a V.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome. 2 different sizes of detergent and fabric softener, and then the pods where you can do or single loads.
Yeah. Okay, Miss Sheila, did you have something to contribute?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Okay. Well, we're coming to the end of our show. It's just 1 hour, and it's 6:59. But if you all want to continue, we can continue. It's not a problem. The thing that I know is that I wanted to speak about some of our contributions to the American way of life, but it's so many of them and accomplishments. Now, one of our greatest accomplishments was defeating the Jim Crow era of our voting rights. Okay, that was a big thing. That was a very big thing in that the struggle and the war. Now I won't call it a struggle. I'm gonna call it a war. The war to have that right was a tremendous war, and there was a lot of people who died for that. Okay, both Caucasians and Black Americans. Okay, now the right is this, and I hear a lot of people say, "I don't vote," but that's your right not to vote. Okay, that's your right. That is your freedom of mind. You don't have to do that. Okay, but those people who do vote, that's their freedom of mind, and in their minds and heart, they have to do it. They gotta do it. Okay, for whatever reason, they have to show up to vote. Okay, and I vote because I like doing it, and I like walking into the poll and joking with everybody and playing with it. And I play with the poll workers. I play with the people who, and I have a great time in there while I'm voting. I'm audious. I'm not quiet and broken down. I go in there with loud voice and thanking everybody for their contributions and stuff like that. And I vote. And I thank everybody when I walk out the door. That's what I do. That's why I like doing it. I really like doing it, okay? But other people who choose not to do that, that's their right. And so I never, ever criticize someone who says that they don't vote, because we fought for the right to do it and the right to not do it, okay? But that's an accomplishment of ours. We take these things lightly. But if you were living in that day and time, many of us, let me back up, many of us do not have an imagination. But if you use your imagination and place yourself back in that day and time and realize what was important to us, not some of us, okay, to us. It was important to us. It was a war going on. And as you know, anytime there's a war going on, physically or otherwise, there are casualties, injuries of all kinds, and a mental depletion. The war drains on your mind. Go ahead, Pearl.
Yes. Am I muted?
No.
So about the voting, when people tell me they don't vote, and this is even before I got elected to office, when people tell me they don't vote, I don't get upset. I don't. I just tell them, because like you said, that's a person's right not to vote. But I just tell people, whether you vote or not, the elected officials are making decisions every day that affect your lives. So you might as well participate in the process and have a say so as to who they are. But I do not get upset when people say they don't vote. I understand, and most people don't understand what all we do and the processes and things like that. So yeah, I don't get upset over that.
Yes. Well, and the important part of it is, some of us, we use the word politics, okay? But politics is a war game, okay? It's a war game, and as we know that the word ballot and bullet you know, are sort of like synonymous. But the thing is, when you think about the physical war, okay, and you see the outcome of war, okay, and when you deal with politics, elections and all of those types of things, you have the same type war, but there aren't any bombs and bullets and anymore. You know what I mean? It's the fight and the war is selecting the person who best represent your views. Okay? Like any war, you have to know the enemy and you have to know yourself. In politics, you have to know yourself and you have to know the candidate. And the war is doing what you have to do to get that person in office who best represent your views. A physical war is doing what you have to do to force your enemy to swallow, I'm going to use that word, swallow your policies. That's what war is. War is forcing policy on another people and vice versa. Okay, so politics, we have accomplished a great deal in this country as it pertains to politics. Because we are young in the political arena as a people, we don't have the full knowledge of how it works. Okay, and we don't have the knowledge of how a capitalist political system works. It works far different than anything you can imagine, because the politics is about money and the economy is about money. Everything in America, your life, your death, your birth, everything in America is about money, and that is what a capitalist society is. You can change it. We can become socialists. We can become anything. But right now it's capitalist. The politics of this land is capitalism. So we don't understand it. We as a people, we have warred so much for just our simple rights until the political rights is a bit elusive. We can't seem to get our hands on it. Okay, but we will. Now we accomplished the big thing, and that is defeating Jim Crow, defeating racists, and we have and I mean, when I say defeat, I mean literally defeated them to earn, to take from them what they thought was theirs. And that's a decision of whether we're going to participate in the political side of our lives or not. They want to be the ones that determine what our political life is going to look like. And they also continue. They didn't give up now. We whipped them, but they didn't give up, because they start funding individual people in our community to do their bidding for them. They start paying them, and they did. So we got to get our hand around that. How we going to stop that? And the only way we can stop that is by funding our own political agenda and our own candidates. We have to donate money. Let me tell you a story, and I'm going to pass it up right quick. And I talked about this on the Love Power show once. Once, I went to Nashville, sat down with Larry Miller and some of the other powerful black politicians in Nashville to get a bill passed where a Muslim does not have to depend on their family views to be buried as a Muslim. The right of burial was the bill. Okay, Larry Miller got the bill drafted, a physical bill on the books right now, got the bill drafted, The bill passed in the lower house, but John Ford was the senior senator in the upper house, and the bill sat there for quite a while until I went to Nashville and sit down in front of him, lobbied the bill in front of John Ford, and I asked him, where is the bill? Why hasn't it gone to the floor? Because the lower house voted for it. And he kicked it around until I understood that we need to raise some money for him. You know what I mean? I found it, got it. Okay, we hadn't made any contributions to his campaign treasurer. Well, I took the information back to the community, and I told the community that the bill, just as I mentioned here, the bill had passed the lower house for the right of Muslims to be able to be buried as Muslims. A Christian can't have you buried as a Christian. You have a right to be buried as a Muslim. Okay, the bill passed the lower house. It hadn't gotten on past the Senate. And I told them that, that it's very likely that if we did a little fundraiser for John, the bill hit the floor of the Senate and passed both the upper house and lower house. Well, because they were naive and didn't understand the politics of things in the capitalist system and how things work in politics, they all concluded that John should do his job and just put the bill on the floor and get the bill passed. And why would we have to raise money to donate to his treasurer to get the bill passed? Because the bill was just that damn important. What if you had raised $800 and say, here, John, here, $800? Muslims would not have to go around and making sure that their loved ones bury them as Muslims. They wouldn't have to have done that for $800. It was just that important. But they slept on it and it failed. A bill that went through the lower house, went through the committees, went everywhere, and didn't get past the Senate because we didn't do what we should have done. It's our responsibility to raise money for candidates who think like us. That's our duty and responsibility. Go ahead, Pearl, I'm sorry.
No problem. So that's where I was going. I wanted to talk about supporting candidates, but to your larger point about people when they transition, whatever that service, those traditions, that protocol, whatever that looks like, I think it should be reflective of the deceased desires and their personality, their lifestyle, whatever their spiritual views were. And it saddens me when I go to a funeral, a memorial service for someone that I knew. I thought I knew that I knew. And then the family, they just incorporate their values, their tastes, their colors, their beliefs. And I think that it's just so selfish and disrespectful. But I did want to comment on the campaign financing. So I ran in 19, I didn't win, then I ran again in 23. And I can say that based on my experience that Black people in Memphis, we are donating to our candidates more, and that's a good thing. And I just wonder I'm trying to choose my words carefully, but I don't know if the average person thinks about what it costs to run a campaign. And then back in the day, you could say, well, you don't need the money if you have the volunteers. But once the pandemic hit and people started paying canvassers, people used to door knock for you and pass stuff out for free, and that still happens, but not like it used to be. So if you're really doing a canvassing effort, unless you are part of a an entity or organization or something where you're going to get that support, you have to pay canvassers, and that starts at $15 an hour. Those signs cost money. The signs, the shirts, the poll workers, lunch and snacks
That's
for the
right.
poll workers. So you have election day plus the roughly 15 days of early voting. So early voting, that's multiple precincts times multiple workers times multiple lunches and snacks and other things that help you. It's all about getting your face, your name, your message out there. So you have the robocalls, the text, all that stuff costs money. And unless you just really raise a whole lot of money, way more than you need, but in most cases, that's not the case. But you don't have funds left. And oh Lord, if you're like me, ended up in a runoff, most candidates, they're broke at the end of
Yes,
the election.
that's true.
They're broke. And then if you in a runoff, you got to fundraise again, or you're in a runoff without any money. And even if people still don't want to donate to our campaigns, I just wish they would be more mindful of and a headquarters. The
Yes.
headquarters costs money if you don't get a space donated. I had a space donated, but it was donated through a connection. So my I had a headquarters for the runoff. So then sometimes when you're in a runoff, you'll get support in the runoff from people and places that you didn't have in the regular election. So the lady who was my manager for the runoff, she had a space for somebody she managed during the regular campaign, and so their property manager gave her permission to just continue on and use the space for me. But I forgot all about the campaign headquarters. So with a campaign, a church, a organization, it's a land base makes a whole lot of difference. And I just close with that.
Well, not only those things that you mentioned, Councilwoman, but also you have your social media, platform that costs money to run. You have to have people to design your website. You have to have
Yes.
people to do all of that social media stuff, which is really has turned or has taken a turn to actually be a campaign in itself. And that can be very expensive. Okay, so what we're looking at is when you find, well, as I mentioned earlier, in politics, and I thank God that we have been, as a people, we have been successful in that war that allowed us to enter into the political arena from the days of Jim Crow. But the point is, when you know yourself and you learn your candidate for whatever political position that person is running for, then it's your obligation to assure that that person with like mind of yourself wins that position. Because with the like minds, you will be able to see some kind of accomplishment versus voting for people who are endorsed by super rich people who you admire so much, and those people get into office and do nothing that you expect to have done, which brings about frustration, which brings about even delusion. Oh, politics ain't, they're all the same and all this kind of stuff. No, you have to elect people of like mind. And that means you have to contribute. Not necessarily money always, but money is always good. You also have to contribute your support. You have to be on hand. And this is where we get beat every year. In every city, in every state, we get beat because we don't understand how important it is to get people in office who have minds like ours. We just don't get it. We think that when a person is elected, they are obligated to do our will, but they are not. That's what capitalism is. They're not obligated to do anything for us because they elected. Because all those numbers of people who voted to cause that person to win the election in trust in the person they voted for. That's all. That's all you do. You entrust that person. That person doesn't have to do anything. Now it's up to you to not vote for them a second time, but by that time they are entrenched. They have support coming from everywhere because they've done a lot of things to get their support. But we have to be conscious enough to understand that if we're going to continue to be successful in the political arena, as we have been, we have to grow up and have to realize our responsibility as a people, to control. And I think that one of our problems is we don't know how to handle power, real power. I'm not talking about personal power. I'm talking about real power. How do we handle it? Like President Barack Obama became president of the United States. Well, he didn't handle the power. He didn't handle it. He did some things that you can give credit to that might help women and help the minority, but the power is what Donald Trump is waging. He's waging power, and he doesn't care what you think about it. Now, why did I bring him in? Because what he's doing is ugly, negative, terrible. He needs to be whipped like a slave for what he's doing. Kicked out. Might need to die in office. But the point is power. And we don't understand that because we have gotten to the point of our lives, and in our lives we fought so long for basic human rights. We've not gotten to the point of fighting for power, and we need to do that too. Now we as a people, we've come a long way to some of these old grassroots activists would say, the preachers and all them would say. We've come a long ways, but we have a long ways to go. Okay, yeah, we have a long ways to go, but hey, we got to go fast. See, we got to find a vehicle to get us to where we need to be real fast. I mean, like warp speed. Okay, we got to get there because our enemies, including Donald Trump and his administration, they fast on our trail. They want to turn back everything so we get another chance to fight another war to hold on to our accomplishments. And that's what's happening now. We're in war again. And we will be victorious again. Okay, we won't let up. We will be victorious. We're gonna win again. And we're gonna win every war they throw at us. So yes, we have accomplished a lot of things in America. We got from no pay to, in some circles, especially government jobs and those types of things, where the pay is equal. But in the secular side of society, we still fighting for equal pay. Okay, we won that war. Okay, we won the right to vote, which is an accomplishment, great accomplishment, a war that we fought and we're victorious in it. We've won many wars in America, and we have a lot of wars to win. And in the Holy Quran, it says that war is prescribed for you, though you may dislike it. Well, war is prescribed for us, though we may dislike it. But what does war do? War make you a better human being in the outcome, make you stronger, better. And that is what we are always. That's why we are better and stronger today than we were. Some of us think that we're weaker, but we're really stronger as a people. But we have to do some very important things in the future, you know, and make our accomplishments even greater. Now we have some unity. That's a great accomplishment for us too. You know, we got to think about how we handle police brutality. We won that war. Though you have a few rogue police officers who get draped and wrapped too tight in their racism and hate and kill one of us. But look at what happened afterward. Now look at the policemen. This is a great victory. When the police kill someone and it's proven that they were outside of their duty, they're tried. When at one time they were not tried. One time they would say, well, it was a knife beside him. He had a knife in his hand, so we killed him. How many young men and women died, black men and women died, because the police kills them and then say they had a weapon? And nothing is there. Nothing comes after that. Nothing. Zero. Just kill somebody and get away with it. He had a gun. Didn't have nothing. Didn't have a weapon at all. Just kill him. Well, we won that war. Now, police officers going to trial. Donald Trump trying to say, well, we want them to be able to kill you, black people. Carte blanche. That's it. You know, you just dead. Summary executions. It's done. Well, we're going to win that war too. We've accomplished great things for ourselves in this country, but we have not been successful in acquiring the wealth. We've not been successful in getting the money. And the only reason we don't have the money is because we do not buy from ourselves. That's all. We got trillions of dollars come through our hands as a people. More money than I think we would be the 9th or 10th largest nation in the world, money-wise. But we don't spend among ourselves. How are we going to accomplish that? How are we going to accomplish that? You know, and that's just an economy. That doesn't mean I love you because I buy from you. That doesn't mean you're the greatest salesman on earth, that you got a product much greater than anybody on earth. It doesn't mean any of that. It means that I just buy. I don't need you to say thank you to me. I don't need you to do nothing. I just need to buy what you got. I don't need you to smile. I don't need you to shake my hand. I don't need you to be nothing. I just need to buy what you got. Black man, I need to just buy what black people have. That's all. Look, see, we make all these distinctions among ourselves about trade and commerce. You go to a restaurant, for an example. You buy the food. The food is terrible. And on most restaurants, food is terrible. It's just bland. They ain't got nothing going for it. It ain't nothing. And you buy it, and in your mind, you make it good. Y'all, it was good. It was really, really good. But it wasn't. Then you go to the next restaurant, and you buy. And the same thing, same scenario. And the next one, and the next one, and the next one. You don't judge the people there. Even if it's a bad waitress or waiter, you just tag that person. You don't tag the whole restaurant. My waiter wasn't any good. I'm not going to give him a tip, whatever. Whatever, right? But you don't ever say, I'm never going back to that restaurant again. Why is it that we apply these cruel principles to ourselves? We go in an African-American restaurant, we'll come out of there saying, you know, the lights weren't bright. You know, they waited too long to bring my check. I waited too long to get my food. I'm never going back again, and never go back again. But we won't do that with Caucasian restaurants. We don't criticize everything that they do because master feeding us. So we got to get out of that kind of thinking. You go by, somebody selling, in a perfect example, another example. Young boys, all of them under 14, African American boys, standing on the corner selling water for $1. $1 water, $2 soda. And they go from car to car to car to car to car to car to get a bottle of water sold. Why? Because most people would not even patronize them with a bottle of water. $1. That's sick. That's insane. That's crazy. But we'll go to the store, to the service station, reach in the cooler, and buy a bottle of water. And then we tag our young boys as criminals. When you can support them, and we can all buy water from them to the point where they wouldn't have to commit a single crime to get money. No economic crime. They just come out and sell water. Something we want and something we're going to buy, but we're going to buy it from master. And we won't buy it from him, from them. Young boys and girls be together sometime on the corner selling water. We should make sure we have $1. Buy the water, throw it on the back seat. Just buy it, just patronize. And that'll create a, and that's how that's the mentality you have to build an economic empire, to become economically free from our enemies. We got the money. We just won't do the right things with it. Anytime someone is selling something, you're not buying it because it's good, perfect, this, that, and all these grandeur words and all that about its quality and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes you buy just to patronize. Just to stop in and just say, I want one of these. So we have accomplished a lot in our lives, a great deal in America. It's time for us now to accomplish the biggest of all, wealth and power and money. Yeah, Elon Musk is a billionaire. Why? Because we buy from him. Black folks buy from him. We buy everything he's selling. What his name on PayPal and what his name on YouTube and all of, and Facebook and all them folks, Twitter and X and all that, they billionaires. Why? Because black folks buy from them. Black people make them rich. We do it. And as Dr. Omar says, we need to create our own social media platforms. We can do it. We created the first one. We created the internet. Do y'all know that? We created the whole damn thing. They ain't supposed to have no enormous advantage over us economically. And no, we made it what it is. We do that. That's what we do. The phone you own, we created that. The graphics we looking at, we created that. We created everything that is necessary in this country. A black man or woman made it. They admit it too. They come on, the Caucasian Europeans come on social media and they say, yep. We didn't invent nothing. They did. The black folks did. So we're the ones who make people millionaires. Don't we get that? Look, I'll give you an example. One more. There's a restaurant on Parkway. I don't know the name of it. But it's a lot of black folk buy from that restaurant. And whites, they buy. But what if we made that restaurant so powerful, so huge, until you have to establish another one, and another one, and another one? You know how that's done? By patronizing. That's all. That's all. That's all. You just stop in there and buy something. That's all. It's no magic to it. It's no, they got real good food, I like their food. No, it's not, it has nothing to do with that at all. It's about patronizing. When you patronize, you create jobs. When you create jobs, you create buying power. You create buying power, you can buy things that you need and things that you really don't need. But this idea that we have in our minds that the people who invented everything is not good enough. Could you understand that? Do y'all understand what I'm saying, Dr. Omar, Councilwoman Pearl Walker? Look, we have in our minds that although we as a people in America invented and created everything, we're not good enough to sell us something. Yeah, that's crazy. That's insane. We're not good enough to sell it back to us. We're good enough to invent it, create it, make it, but we're not good enough to buy it back. Come on, come on. We are better than that. We created it. We made America what it is. America would be nothing but a dry forest, would be woods and forests all across the continent after they decimated the indigenous people. Without us, without black people, it wouldn't be nothing. That wouldn't be anything. Bottom line, wouldn't be anything. China would have been the superpower of 100 years ago, 200 years ago, if it wasn't for black people. We made the first car. Don't y'all know that? The first motorized automobile was invented and created by a black man. Surely we can purchase from each other. Surely we can build. Surely we can become victorious in that war. But the war is going to have to be a war on us. The war has to be on us. Go ahead. Anybody can jump in. I didn't want to take all that time, but we're 37 minutes over our time. So if you don't have anything else to contribute to the conversation, cool. Do anybody have a suggestion on what the next conversation should be?
You know, Dr. Luke.
Yes, sir.
Right now in Memphis, there are probably pretty close to 1,000 gas stations.
Yes.
That are owned by Arabs from the Middle East.
Yes.
But not by black folk from right here in Memphis. And I very seldom stop at one. I'm trying to find a service station that's got somebody black working there, so that I can feel like I'm giving you some change, so you can at least get some income.
Right.
But when I see Arab gas stations, I pass them up every time I get a chance to. Yeah. I ain't trying to give you another nickel because you don't care nothing about us, and so I can't have no sympathy for you. You make right now, you're making tens of thousands of dollars off of us every day. We got to come back to that same table, and we got to train our children and our young people to go back and create those kinds of businesses in our own communities.
Yes.
So we can support ourselves and the community. You can make some good money, and then you're also taking care of your people. But
exactly.
Not just in the service station, but also even back in the day when we had black-owned restaurants. I remember going to Montezuma, which is a white restaurant down on Summer Avenue. Had to go to the back door.
Yeah.
knock on the door, tell them what I wanted. Then I stand out and I stand there in the rain waiting for them to bring me the order so I can take it back to the
Right.
house.
That's right.
But
Yeah. We talked about that earlier in the conversation here today. What we
yeah,
went through, the things we went through.
we got to go back and create our own place, like Southern Hands, the restaurant called Southern Hands.
Right.
We need to create as many of those Southern Hands as we can figure out.
Yeah. And that's why I say patronize. And look, we in our day and time, Dr. Omar, you and I and some of the others, there were businesses all through the African Black community.
Yes.
We had businesses, all kinds of businesses, shoe shops and cleaners, grocery stores, sundries and gas stations. You know, we had all of this in our community at one time. Okay, so we know what it's like. You know, we know what it's like to leave home and go to your neighborhood store, clothing stores on Macklemore. We had a lot of businesses. Okay,
You see, even at Piccadilly, it's primarily black people working there.
that's Piccadilly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I go there, because it's primarily us working there,
Yeah.
and I also look at the food to make sure I'm going to eat because it's healthy.
Right.
But again, I don't want to go to a white restaurant with white folks and ain't nobody working there but them, and we're not making any money off of it.
We're making a dime off of it. No job creation in some places, and some they just do.
Money.
But the thing is, we had these service stations at one time.
Yes.
Okay. And we had these stores in the neighborhood at one time.
Yes.
And we sold out.
Yes.
And when we sold out, those buildings were abandoned, and many times they were abandoned for years, and the immigrants come in and they see abandoned buildings, set up business, and the commerce is still there. See, just because we sold out or we abandoned it, the commerce didn't go anywhere. So when they go in those buildings and set up shop, the commerce pops right back. That's how big and powerful America's economy is. It's huge. It's beyond our imagination. So we can't even comprehend it. But if we do, as a people, decide to go back into our community and compete for our people's business again, it will be war.
Yeah. You got to rewind that.
Yeah.
Rewind the clock and go back and take our children with us.
Yeah.
And train them on how to do those same things that these other folks are training their children to do.
Look, these people, these immigrant people, are making millions of dollars in these little stores in our neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
Millions. They're not gonna easily surrender that.
No.
They entrenched. They in our bloodline. They will fight us. You understand? They will war against us to get our money.
Exactly.
It's too much money. See, when you look at one of these little stores, little service stations, and because I've been in the restaurant business, okay? I had a bunch of restaurants one time. But I'm gonna tell you something. When you go in one of them little service stations and they selling fish and chicken and potatoes and all that stuff, right? When you look in that little bit of space and you see 5 or 6 employees, right? People working, 5 or 6 employees in this little old bitty space, that tells you these people are making thousands of dollars per day. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars per month in these little bitty places. Why? Because of food stamps, because of this and that and other things. They make the money. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
So one thing that we experience as elected officials is people calling us for money, for sponsorships, for different activities, events, and projects.
Yeah.
And I'd like the people you just mentioned, and so many, all these businesses in our communities. We need to be hitting them up for everything, for the Little League, for the
Yes.
the Women's Day,
Right.
for this, for that. We need to be hitting them up.
But we won't.
I don't know. I don't. I'm thinking that people just don't even think to ask them. You think about a sponsorship, people think about maybe going to a big corporation or something, but all that little stuff can add up. But we need to hit these businesses up that are in our communities that we running in and out of weekly, daily, monthly, and asking them for sponsorship. Kroger's, they got a monopoly on the grocery stores. We need to be asking them, and they don't do us right because they have the monopoly, and just on and on and on. But that's a way that we could be getting them to put back into the community. We need to hit them up.
Where they're not orientated to it, because when they first come in, we did not orientate them to it. We just start by. See, and we have no organization. Okay, you see, if we were organized people, they wouldn't have a problem with it. But we're all individuals, and now they do have a problem with it. See, we are not organized. If it's just like anybody else in any other ethnic group. When they need something done, they know what businessman or businesswoman to go ask to support them, and they get it. They get what they need. We don't. We just are a different breed, so to speak. Either we are afraid of these people and won't turn to them and ask them to give back to the community, or we don't think we have a right to. One or the other. But they will donate. They will give. If you go to them, they'll give you. They'll give. They know what they're taking out of the community. But they do also know that even if they deny you and say no, they know that their customers are still going to keep coming. Even if you stand out on the corner with signs, don't buy from them because they won't do this, that kind of thing, they still know it. We're going to keep buying from them. Like one shot and killed a young man some time ago. And Wallace Reed and all of us protested it, shot and killed him. And we stood out there and protest for a long time. Protest. Weeks protesting. They had no right to shoot and kill him, but they did. And the people kept buying. They walked past the protest, go straight into the store and buy from them. And the guy shot and killed little Jimmy because little Jimmy ran out the store with a quart of beer or something, a cooler, something. Shot, ran out. The guy ran out of the store, ran down the street chasing him and shot him and killed him. And our people never stopped shopping at the store. Even though we were standing out in front of the store picketing and protesting and talking and everything, they never stopped buying.
And that's like with XAI, we get some emails from some white people, but the people who really live in that immediate area, and I know a lot of them are seniors, we don't hear from them. They're not coming to council. They're not coming. They don't email us.
Right.
We hear from the environmental groups, and I'm, in that arena, but it's a lot of barking in the community. It's a lot of barking at these forums and on social media, but we're not hearing from our people. Not.
But there's a reason for that, Councilwoman. See, back in the, look, I'm a senior, okay? I can't help but go back in the day, right? Back in the day, in the 80s, the city council was full of people, always. And I used to go not only to council meetings, I would be in committee meetings. Okay, I had a relationship with one of the council's secretaries. I was there so much, and trying to get so much done. But that was back in the 80s, early 80s, right? And then the council changed on us. Okay, we were able to speak to council. Then they limit the time that we could speak. And then they made another move or some kind of move. I can't remember exactly what it was. That really kind of like knocked us out of the box.
Because council at the big meeting, you can comment for 2 minutes at the council meeting, but at the commission, they do give you 3 minutes.
Right. See, council, because, and the reason councilwoman, the reason the city council did that is because there were a lot of grassroots activists that was coming to city council meetings, and they were coming, and they were charging certain council members with derelict of duty, and charging them with serious things, pretty serious things, taking money, a lot of stuff. Grassroots activists, they don't follow any rules. They just come with their issue. They come to city council talking about council and MLG and W back in the day. MLG and W was the big devil back in the day, still is. And grassroots activists would be there every Tuesday. That council was having meetings every Tuesday, I think. Yeah, or every other Tuesday, one of them. And I was one of those people. I was a big activist in council meetings, right? So, but what happened is they changed the rules on us, councilwoman. They reduced our time to speak. They made sure the sergeant of arms was almost holding our hands, So if you said anything negative, you might get thrown out, But council, the citizens have a right, councilwoman, have a right to come into that chamber. That's a public chamber. We have a right to come there and say what is on our mind. We do not have to have any kind of decorum. We don't have to be respectful. We don't have to do any of that. We can come to council and say what's on our minds. Okay? Now, most of us are intelligent and respectful, but and council's duty is to sit there and just listen. That's all. Let the people vent. It's a lot of stuff people need to vent for. But when you start controlling the citizenry, controlling what they say, how they say, you have stepped outside of democracy. Because we got that right. Okay, and it needs to be put back like that. And I guarantee you'll see people come up and state their opinions and views of how this city is being run. Excuse me. How this city is being run, and what city councilmen and councilwomen like yourself should be doing to help us. That is the only feedback you're going to ever get from your citizens. They're not going to write you letters, and especially black folk, they're not going to do that. One of us will get up there and vent and express our opinion and views and cover most of the city. That's how we think. Tell you exactly how most of us are thinking. But we're not like them. See, we're not like Caucasians and Europeans and whites. We're not like them.
I got a quick question.
Sure.
Hey, why is that a threat when you show up to maybe a council meeting and you are kind of expressing, we've seen it online, a lot of people expressing, the things that they're worried about, and not in the best way. I mean, everybody's not, that proper or well-spoken. I'm just kind of aiming this at the councilwoman. Why is that considered a threat? Maybe you can elaborate on that, because I notice a lot of people who kind of go outside the bounds of, public speaking, and they get tossed out of the council meetings.
So I don't think you're saying regarded as disrespect. So you touched on a few things, and thank you for your question. So since I've been on the council, I don't know of anyone who's been tossed out of a meeting, but I know of people who've been asked to leave if they're doing something and it's what we judge as inappropriate, and they're asked to leave. So if you're asked to reframe whatever was said that is considered out of order, and you don't refrain, then the next step is you are asked to leave. But since I've been on the council, I don't recall of anybody who has been thrown out. But after a person has been corrected or asked to refrain and they persist, and then they are asked to leave, if they continue and they don't leave, then at that time, security will make their way towards them. But I don't know if anyone who has had their hands placed on them and they've been pushed, drugged, or led out of the chamber. Now, for myself, it's been 1, 2, 3 meetings ago, and this person was representing a Middle Easterner. You have these, I call them lobbyists, but they're something else. But they were wanting to do this gas station and convenience store, and we are very slow to approve those these days, especially if it's a new one. But the person called my name, and that is considered making it personal, unacceptable. So that person was asked to refrain, and they continued. And then the chair said something else to them, but they finally fell back. But it was 3 meetings back to back after that I had to with this person. It was their meeting, and I had to have security, and I knew this person, but because of how they came to me personally, they could have said whatever they wanted to say, but once they called my name and made it personal, it is viewed and perceived another way. So I had to go to 3 community meetings back to back with security because that person was going to be there.
So are these running rules, or are they like stoked in like a true like rule, like or is it like rules of engagement for city council that citizens know, or is it just like running rules, like what we feel, or whether or not we feel threatened?
They're stated at the beginning of the meeting. The chairman states it at the beginning of the meeting. And if you want to follow up with me and I get you something in writing, I will do that. If you follow up with me in writing, I'll get you something in writing. But they're stated at the beginning of the meeting. And like I say, a person, they can say whatever they want to say short of profanity and a personal attack against a council member. But outside of that, people can say whatever they want to say.
Okay, yeah, that clears it up. I just wanted to just kind of understand where you were coming from. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, Councilwoman, we appreciate you showing up today. And
thank y'all. Excuse me for being so informal, but I'm off the grid.
But that's all good. You give us some value here on Mo Talk Memphis. You've given us value, and we appreciate you a lot. And so we hope you join us again. We're going into the 2nd hour of the talk show. And we did this last week, and actually we should not have done it this week. So next week, next Sunday, same time, Mo Talk would be for 1 hour. I'm not going to promise you, but 1 hour, because you all get involved in this conversation and you just keep going and going, because there's so much that we have to talk about. It's a lot of things that's happening to us, and I really appreciate my brother who suggested that we talk about our accomplishments last week, and it turned out to be a real good conversation. Thank you so much for that. And hopefully we come back on next week, and maybe we'll talk about who has a suggestion that I can do some research in, and I'd love to do the research and come back. And
we need to talk about our challenges, because we have a lot of them. Not just with Donald Trump, but also Elon Musk.
Okay, would that be political challenges?
All social, all of them.
Oh, political.
Okay. When they're doing the school system.
General challenges.
Black history. We need to talk about all those challenges they're putting against us.
Okay. Well, I think we need to stick to one, And that's the challenge that we have as far as patronizing. You know, and I'll give you another example of patron. Okay, we got 2 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead on with this other example of patronage. And this is weird here. This is really, really, really weird. You know, I drive through the neighborhood and I see people sitting up in their front yard selling things, right? Selling flea market, or not flea market, yard sales. Okay, now, I see the Caucasian, Europeans, and whites doing their flea market and yard sales, okay? And I've gone to one or two, and I noticed something. I noticed that when they do business with the white and Caucasian yard sales, black folks, when our folks do business with them, we purchase from them and never challenge or never ask for concession, never ask for a lower price. Whatever that Caucasian or European state as the price, our people pay the price. But I've gone to other yard sales with African Americans, and I've heard people finagle with them. Can you take $25? Can you take 10? What is wrong with us? Why do we do that? Why do we? Is it because we're so comfortable with ourselves? Is it because we feel like finagling? We feel free? And we don't feel like that with Caucasians or Europeans? We think that when they tell us a price, we just pay it and take what we want and go ahead? And we show up at those people's businesses in huge numbers. But it's like we don't have nothing to, the black folks don't have nothing to sell to black people. They just pass them up. Go straight on to a Caucasian. And as I mentioned earlier, how can you realize and understand that we invented everything? We're the best of inventors, the best of creators, but our products and foods and other things are not good enough for us to buy? Go ahead, Pearl, Councilwoman.
Yes, so to what you were just saying, back to financially supporting the campaigns, and our whole mindset around money and spending, like we don't think the costs associated with a campaign. We don't think about the cost of associated with a business. So I know you're talking about yard sales, but even when you go into black-owned business, we expect the hookup. We expect the hookup when we go into black-owned business.
Yeah, we
don't do that when we
it.
go to Walmart and other places. And I just, there's a cost to doing business. There is overhead. There's cost for that brick and mortar, whether it's purchasing, leasing, you buying, you got insurance and all of that. But I just wanted to say in closing, I think the number one activity for the festivals, I'm loving to see more different types of Juneteenth events, and I would like for that to continue. But the number one Juneteenth event should be supporting black businesses.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%. We have to stick with that. That's one of our challenges, Dr. Omar, that we need to talk more about. I really appreciate you all for joining us today. And I think, again, we've had a very successful talk show. And again, we had a very good topic and subject, thanks to our panelists. And next week, we'll get right back on top of the job, and we're going to talk about our challenges as black folk. Mo Talk Memphis, thank you for joining us. You all have a great evening.